Hello, and thank you for joining us to discuss air cargo and digitalization in 2021. The industry plays a vital role in international trade and logistics, and for that matter, in our general lives as well, as a primary mode for distance transportation. This is therefore set up to be a very interesting discussion, in particular thanks to the increasing popularity and emergence of digital booking tools, despite traditional methods still being used by so many. Joining me to discuss this is Scott McCorquodale. Scott is actively involved in our air cargo solutions here at CargoWise, and I'm therefore very interested to hear what thoughts he has to share with us. Scott, hello, and thank you for your time.
Hi Jay, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Scott, the industry is facing and navigating its way through what is arguably the biggest disruption it's ever had to face. The outcomes of which are both positive and negative depending on who you are and where within the industry you operate. Can you summarise for us at a high level what the major shifts have been and what they've meant for the industry?
Sure, Jay. Look, the industry is very dynamic and it has been through this massive disruption in the last 12 months. Around 88% of global passenger flights have been disrupted as a result of COVID, and these are coming back very slowly across the world. And the reason why that's impacted air cargo is that so much of global air cargo travels in the belly of passenger planes. Now that number varies somewhere between 50 and 80%, depending on the route that we're talking about and so forth. But with so much global air cargo capacity coming out of the market, that's impacted on getting cargo moving around the world. So that's probably been one of the biggest disruptors, is that the capacity is not there where it's needed in certain routes. And as a result of that, the freight forwarders, the users of CargoWise, have had a more challenging period. It's settling down a little bit now, but in the early days of COVID, it was a real challenge. And we've seen some big changes in the way that airlines operate. We've seen aircraft flying around the world with boxes on seats, boxes in overhead lockers, all the aisles full of boxes, but no passengers on board. And a lot of that is still taking place today, depending on the route. So it's been very disruptive, but I think it's been an indictment on the capacity of freight forwarders to be innovative and airlines to be innovative as well, and to rise to the challenge. I shouldn't use the word pivot because it gets used everywhere, but effectively they have pivoted to doing things differently.
And we are seeing the early signs of stabilisation and demand returning?
Yep, absolutely. How long it'll take to return to pre-COVID levels, nobody really knows. There's been a bit more domestic capacity coming back in certain markets, such as the US and Australia. But people are saying that capacity is going to remain pretty tight through until the end of 2022. And if that happens, then there'll be a continuation of new ways of doing business through until that time.
I'm sure all are watching are familiar with and can appreciate this is an incredibly complex industry. Is it therefore safe for me to assume that a return to pre-COVID supply and demand levels has a myriad of flow-on effects, both short-term and long-term?
Yeah, I think it will have different effects on different parts of the industry. And there's a whole range of factors around that. A lot of that we won't know until it happens, I guess. But airlines have been significantly disrupted. That's meant a whole lot of things like a reduction in staff levels. A lot of staff have been made redundant and so forth in some of the airlines. So when capacity comes back in, I think we're going to find other challenges that have not existed pre-COVID, such as having enough people to do the right things and to do all the right jobs. Now, in air cargo, it's less impacted, I guess, than passenger, but even in air cargo, what we're going to find is an increased need for technology to try and fill those gaps and make the whole process more efficient and more effective.
In your opinion, are we going to see a continued uptake in the role and focus of technology across the air cargo space?
Absolutely. It's never changed. We've been evolving for many years, trying to introduce new technologies into air cargo. And that is going to accelerate, I think, in the coming 12 to 18 months, because the smart airlines, I guess, are those that are working out how they're going to position themselves for the future. And that's why products such as Ebookings, better integrated schedules, better tracking solutions, better rating solutions, these types of solutions are going to make the industry more effective and more efficient and enable it to gear up, I guess, as the market comes back to normal.
And why is this so important to the industry?
The fundamental process of moving a piece of cargo from A to B needs a whole range of different elements to come into that activity. Now, if you're a freight forwarder and you're trying to identify how you can get your cargo from A to B, then the old days of knowing which airlines would fly what flights on what days and what aircraft, those days are gone right now because there is so much change happening in schedules. And they've been happening on a daily basis. So consequently, if you're going to have to make lots of phone calls or send lots of emails as a forwarder in order to get information that you need, then that's going to be difficult for you and difficult for the other end. Because they've got to have people available to take those phone calls, to respond to those emails. So that's where the technology plays a really key part, making sure that we can make the whole process work effectively. And we'll probably look back on it in 5 years' time and have a more efficient and more connected and more technologically savvy industry that has other benefits as well.
Okay, so e-bookings, and as you've mentioned, many airlines are already taking e-bookings across their websites, where I guess they have the breadth of control over the user experience and the costs, etc. Is this not the right approach, or is it just simply not enough?
Look, you're right. Many airlines are doing a lot of bookings over their websites. Some major airlines are not, though, and that's where the opportunity exists for them. But for those that are, it's important to be where your customers are. So it's important to be in the place that is easy for your customers to do business with you. And it's important to be where your competitors are as well. And the good thing about what is offered to the industry and to users of products like CargoWise is the ability to have that multiple airline view over schedules and over rates, and to be able to book with multiple airlines online, and do that without having to go outside of the operating system that your people are using day in and day out. So no going to the internet and logging on to airline websites and going, oh, what's the password for this airline, or what's the password for that airline? And that process is very ineffective. So bringing it all in line to the way that you're doing business is the right way to go.
I guess it's the same as airlines on the passenger side selling tickets on their website, as well as sites like Expedia and Booking.com. But we're not talking about marketplaces, are we?
I mean, marketplaces have a role to play, but I think one of the key roles is, firstly, the airline needs to be where its customers want it to be when it comes to promoting its capacity. And I think they need to be where their competitors are as well. But the value that we see for our customers is the fact that it's not having to go outside of their operating system into another marketplace. It's all being done within CargoWise. And that's the real opportunity that exists, is to make the process better for freight forwarder, to make the capacity available from the airline to the forwarder, to keep it all together in the one place. And that's the way to go.
And what about future market shifts? Does investment in optimization now help a business hedge against possible unknowns down the road?
Yeah, I guess the unknowns are unknown, aren't they? But there is no question that the investment in implementing the right technology is going to position the airlines and the forwarders better down the track. And one of the things is even down to the basics of tracking cargo and knowing where cargo is, because the requirements of the shipper to be kept informed are just going to continue to increase, and they have done for many years. They're being more demanding of their forwarders, wanting to know where the cargo is at all times. And that's where there's a real need to continue the focus of technology so that the whole process and the whole supply chain can be better informed. And if you can improve the way that that information flows around the industry, then you're going to have a better result in the end. So, and that's just one element. There's many other parts of air cargo technology that can evolve and have evolved and will continue to evolve as we progress. And getting all of the right and getting the best possible solutions in place now in the next 12 months or 18 months is important as well, because then when the market does recover post-COVID, we're in a better place.
So how well positioned is the industry as a whole to adapt to digitalisation and future changes to the way of doing business? And I'll add to that by asking, is there a risk of those who are slow to adapt possibly being left behind?
Look, I think history shows us that the airline industry and the air cargo industry is very good at adapting to change. There's been lots of change thrown upon us in recent years, changes to regulatory compliance, changes to security requirements, changes to customs regulations, changes to how the industry actually operates at a macro level as well, trying to take the paper out of the air cargo process. So we've been able to implement a lot of change, without doubt. There's a lot more change that's currently floating around out there and is also happening. A lot of that is driven by some of the programs through IATA, as an example, looking at products like One Record and ways to make the industry smarter and more efficient. So that appetite for change is certainly going to keep growing. And if airlines aren't in a position to keep up with that change, then I think that they will generally be challenged into the future. So it's a good time to adopt.
Scott, that's very helpful. I think we can probably wrap it up here. Before we do though, do you have any parting thoughts for forwarders or airlines watching this and perhaps wondering what the next steps are?
The main things I would suggest is, if you're a freight forwarder, then embrace what changes are available to you. Look at how you can implement e-bookings into your process. Importantly, if the airlines that you do business with are not in the program, if you're a CargoWise forwarder and the airlines that you do business with are not in our e-booking program, then we encourage you to go out and talk to your airline service providers and encourage them to engage. And if you're an airline and you'd like to move down that path of making it easier for your customers to do business with you, then we suggest that we are your best option for that. So contact us anytime via email at aircargosolutions@wisetechglobal.com, and we'd be happy to engage with you.
Scott, very informative, very insightful. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome, Jay. Anytime at all.
Speak soon.
Thanks.